Hi, welcome to the Wisdom of Everything, the educational channel where we teach you the essential skills to become the hero version of yourself. And the most important step for personal change is knowing how to control your habits. Because success is the product of your daily habits, and not once-in-a-lifetime transformations. This is a quote from author James Clear in his book Atomic Habits, and shows the huge impact your habits have on your life. In this two-part video series, we give you a summary of the core principles and techniques that James Clear describes in his book Atomic Habits. Let's get started with part 1.
Woohoo!
According to James Clear, the key to making big changes to your life lies in the small, tiny actions you do every single day. Imagine you are a pilot of a big plane. And when you are flying in the air, adjust your course with a very small degree. Everybody inside the plane would not notice the tiny change you've made, but in the end, you'll end up somewhere completely different. So while no one on the plane noticed the small change, the impact was ultimately significant. We don't notice tiny changes because their immediate impact is negligible. But if we repeat small behaviors day after day, our choices compound into major results. Positive change requires patience. And this is something you absolutely must recognize, because we often get demotivated by not seeing immediate results. That's why James Clear recommends that you focus on the journey rather than the results. Because if you consistently make small changes to your behavior every day and repeat them long enough, these changes will eventually become habits, and these habits will eventually help you get to your dream destination. But how do we get started? Well, first of all, you need to understand how habits are formed. When we encounter a new situation, our brains try to figure out how to respond to it through a process of trial and error. For example, when you enter a dark room, you are not able to see. This darkness is a trigger or cue that creates a need or desire to see again, which is the craving. And this craving urges us to respond and perform an action to see again, by for instance, flicking the light switch. And when the light is turned on, we are relieved to be able to see again, which is a satisfying outcome. And the actions or behaviors that give you a satisfying outcome tend to be repeated until they become habits. So now you understand how habits work, you can use this power to change them. And one way is to change your surroundings or environment. For example, if you want to stop eating unhealthy foods, you can hide them so that they are not visible and trigger your bad habits. Or conversely, if you want to eat healthier snacks, leave them on the counter instead of in the cupboard. A second great way to build good habits is to use implementation intentions. Implementation intentions refers to a clear plan of action where you set out when and where you'll carry out the habit you'd like to cultivate. Usually we are too vague about our intentions. We say, for instance, I am going to eat better, or I am going to exercise more often, and hope will follow through. However, many times we don't. Therefore, it is much better to be specific and say, for instance, on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, after the alarm goes off, the first thing I'll do is go for a 30 minutes run. Combine this with an obvious visual trigger by placing your running shoes where you can see them, and it becomes even easier to achieve your intention. If it is still hard to build your new habit, then you could stack it on top of an already existing habit. This is called habit stacking. Let's say, you want to start meditating, but you're struggling to find the time. Then, try to find a habit you already do effortlessly each day, like drinking coffee in the morning, and commit yourself to meditate each time you finish your coffee. In this way, you stack meditating on the habit of drinking coffee in the morning. But sometimes, we want to build a habit that we don't really like. For some people, this is physical exercise. You can tackle this by linking the unappealing behavior to a behavior you really like. This is called temptation bundling. For example, watch your favorite program while cycling on an exercise bike. And perhaps, over time, the activity becomes more enjoyable. And if not, you are doomed to fail. No, that's not true. That's why in part 2, we tell you more about how to make the activity more enjoyable, along with 3 amazing techniques you absolutely don't want to miss.
Woohoo!